I say these things not because I'm proud, but I'm not shamed either, because God has brought me from some things. And there's somebody here today that is watching this saying, I thought I was too dirty. But when I tell you, you're not too dirty. You're not too dirty.
Welcome to Spirit-Filled Mama. This is a space where I connect with brave women who have overcome life's challenges. I'll be sharing their true and inspiring testimonies of how they navigated adversity, they achieved the extraordinary, and they confronted their fears head on. We will delve into scripture and discuss topics that resonate with everyone. I'm your host, Samantha, a mother of 3 wonderful children, a wife, an entrepreneur, and a fellow overcomer just like you. Each week, I will engage with special guests, close friends, or simply share some insights. Most importantly, I'll illustrate how Jesus transforms lives and how he can change yours too. Whether you're a new Christian, a seasoned believer, or just somewhere in between, you have found your community. So settle into a cozy chair, turn up the volume, and let's embark on this journey together. This is Spirit-Filled Mama.
And then as I got older, I ended up I was going to school. My daddy has been married 14 times, I think.
Wow.
So he would move us around everywhere. Yeah. I went to Brazelton, then we went to Dahlonega, and I ended up meeting the girl that my dad dated in Dahlonega. Her daughter was a little older than me, and I ended up feeling for the first time real love and acceptance from Betty and Dean. And I was 15 at the time, and I was going to school at Lumpkin County. And it was beautiful. Like, they were so kind to me, but my dad and her mom split up. Mm-hmm. So it was like I was being ripped away again. But I went to juvenile court and I emancipated myself.
I did not know that.
Yes.
I did not know that about you.
I ended up emancipating myself because I just felt like nobody wanted me anyway. And I think what really triggered that is I was going to boot camp because let me back up just a little bit. So before Daddy had went up with Betty and Dee, I had been running away. I wasn't going to school. So I'd already been put on probation for truancy. And then my dad lived in a school bus, and I remember the time that I did acid. I came home. I was supposed to go to court the next morning for truancy, but I didn't go because I was tripping on acid.
Yeah, you were not prepared for court.
So the police show up to take me away, and they did, for a bench warrant because I didn't show up. And when we got into court, the judge asked my daddy, either you can take her home with you or I'm going to send her to boot camp. And my daddy said, send her to boot camp. And so I'm sure he realizes it now, but if he didn't at the time, that you just ruined me.
Yeah.
Because
you took away that last strand of hope.
Yes. Because, just 6 months prior, me and my daddy lived in a trailer on Spring Road, and I had a little brother named Zach who was 6 months old. And our house burned down and killed my little brother and my stepmom while we were in the house, And
I did not know that either.
Yeah, so I was already using these things. And see, there's so much I'm missing. I should have went back.
No, you're good.
Because there's so much I'm missing. The new wife that my dad had when we moved in, she taught me to steal clothes. She would take me with her, and we would steal clothes, right, from Walmart. Mm-hmm. We would take the stroller in, and she would just teach me I was 13, 14, 15. But I would get all this stuff that I wanted. So, I was learning to steal. Mm-hmm. She would teach me that. Well, she got caught, right? I was a minor, so she got caught, and they took her to jail, mm-hmm. And she was pregnant at the time. Well, when the baby came, she was doing community service. So I was watching Zach from the time he was born until the time he died. For most parts of the day. What I'm saying? I was like little mama because Daddy worked.
Yeah.
Melissa had to do her community service. So Zach, she had an older daughter that my Aunt Christy was already raising, you know. So when our house burned down and it took Zach, it felt like it took Zach from me, you know. She went with him, and I ended up in a mental hospital, GMHI, because I was smoking pot, and my daddy was like, she's smoking pot, and my mom, it really wasn't my daddy, it was my mom, and when she found out I was smoking pot, she thought, she tried to bring me back home, and when she tried to bring me back home, I told her I had 815 Tylenol, that I'd be dead soon anyway, and they took me to the hospital, and they ended up putting me in a mental hospital.
Yeah.
She thought I'd only be there for a couple of days. I ended up being there for 30 days. So fast forward now, after all that, I went back with my dad after I got out of the mental hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And I went back to using, you know, like,
I mean, you have become accustomed to this lifestyle. I mean, and would it be safe to say that drugs were your only connection at that time?
Mm-hmm.
You weren't connected to people. Mm-hmm. You weren't connected to God.
I was connected to anything that would silence the noise
mood
in my brain, you know, of the enemy telling me, nobody loves you. Nobody likes you. You're not worthy. They all leave you. They don't want nothing to do with you. Up until this point now, I'm in court, and it's time for my daddy to finally stand up for me, and he says, send her on. So I ended up going, I spent a year in boot camp. I was only supposed to spend 30 days. I got into a fight. I had built up this wall. I've always been tiny, you know. Mm-hmm. And I had built up this demeanor of, nobody's going to mess with me.
Tough girl.
Yeah. I'm the tough girl. And I carried this with me strong, you know what I mean? And I could stand by it, you know what I mean? The work that my daddy had put me through as a kid built my muscle, you know? So I had these muscles. I looked like the tough girl, you know? So I ended up getting into a fight. I ended up staying longer and longer and longer until I almost had to spend a year. And when I got out, I emancipated myself, and I went to live with Betty. And
would you say that, I hear about a lot of kids going to boot camp, and I mean, what good did that do you?
It opened me up to homosexuality, because it was an all-girls thing. Mm-hmm. And when you're a person who's already just looking for love in any person, that's what it does. There's another connection. They started me on medication there that I don't feel like I ever really needed. My mind was already just messed up. You know what I mean? Like,
you didn't need boot camp. You needed someone to help you.
I needed some help.
Those kids are just crying out for help.
Yes.
They are.
I was cutting myself all around, you know, like, that's what I was doing in my quiet time. Mm-hmm. I was screaming for attention.
Yeah.
You know, I was screaming for somebody to see me. But nobody did. From the very beginning, I was left in foster care. I was left when it was time for somebody to answer to the mess that I had been put through.
Yeah.
I was left when somebody had to answer for the abuse they had done to me. I was left when I finally got where I thought I was going to be loved at. You know what I'm saying? I had been abandoned so many times that I had made up my mind I didn't need nobody. That I could do this life on my own.
What would you say to a girl that may be in that position right now, that just needs someone to see her? What would you say to that girl?
Tell somebody you need someone to see you. Don't do it through actions of hurting yourself. Don't do it through actions of acting out, because that's what I did. Yeah. I didn't say, I need somebody to see me. I didn't say that to anybody. I expected people to know, like, that I need you to see me. You know what I'm saying? And I had so much guilt from the things that I had done, the people that I'd messed with the wrong way, the things, because that followed me through my life until I was about 18 years old. You know, people I should never even have messed with. You know, and I'm not gonna put all that out there because I don't want to name names, but I had this demon inside of me that was just eating everything it touched, you know, and it just continued to get worse and worse and worse. And I had built up this wall of, I'm just bad and I don't need nobody. You know what I'm saying? Like, nobody has served me any purpose, not God, not people. Like, I can do this life on my own. And so that's the way I began to operate, is on my own. I began to operate that way. I was selling drugs. I was doing drugs. I wasn't doing hard drugs at the time, but I would try anything once, you know?
Yeah.
And see, the funny thing is, when I got, the first time I was ever offered hard drugs, my daddy is the one who gave it to me. I want you just to try this, you know? So all along, the adults in my life who were supposed to love and protect me just didn't.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? They just didn't. But I want to get on a little further because I don't want to.
That's where let's not dwell on
What?
where you were.
Yes.
Tell me, Jessica, when was it where you had your encounter with God? Tell me about that.
Well, I'd say I went on for quite some time before I had an encounter with God. After my teenage years and I had got out of boot camp, I found I was messing with a guy who was doing harder drugs, and I found out I was pregnant with my oldest daughter, who's 27 now. And I raised her the best I could for about a year, and I was living back with my real dad, and I had started talking to a black guy. And when my daddy found out I was talking to a black guy, he put me and my daughter out. I drove home. When I got home, my stuff was outside.
Mm-hmm.
And
I mean, that's common around in this area.
Yes. Racism and prejudice I have experienced more than anything I can ever imagine in this area. And so I left, me and my daughter, but I knew that I didn't have anywhere for my daughter to go. So I ended up letting my daughter go live at home with my mom. And people always look at me and say, how did you do that when you knew what you had went through? And I don't have an answer for that. I don't have an answer for that. What I do know is that my dad was no longer drinking alcohol. And I just didn't know what else to do, really. It's like I didn't have another option, you know. It was either that or have her out on the streets. And I thought, she's just going to be there for just a little while. And then I'm going to go back and get her.
Yeah.
But I ended up getting with a black guy. And the first black guy that I was with was very abusive to me.
Mm-hmm.
But in my mind, he loved me.
That was love.
That was love, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for 2 or 3 years, I was with this guy. I was trying to get my daughter back. But we were selling drugs. We were stealing clothes. We were robbing people. Like, whatever he asked me to do, I would do. And even if he didn't ask me and I knew it would make him happy, I would do it. Because I had found love in this guy. What I thought was true, pure love. He would beat the crap out of me, and the next day he would tell me he's sorry and he loved me, and I ate up every bit of it. I just thought, this guy truly loves me. And I tried often to go get my daughter back, but I often had warrants on me because I was stealing stuff. Yeah. I had stole a car from New York. And like, when I tell you, I have done everything that you can imagine, down to even selling myself for this guy. Okay. So I say these things not because I'm proud, but I'm not shamed either. Because God has brought me from some things. And there's somebody here today that is watching this saying, I thought I was too dirty. But when I tell you, you're not too dirty. You're not too dirty. So fast forward, I ended up, we were selling drugs out of our house, me and this guy. Mm-hmm. I had got pregnant and had a baby by him, which is my second daughter. And the ATF and the DTF, they ran in our house, guns drawn, you know, and he ended up going to jail. Well, when he ended up going to jail, I thought, well, this is it, you know, but it wasn't very long. He had got out. I was pregnant at the time. I hadn't even had the baby yet. And then I ended up going to jail for stealing, right? For driving with no license. I sent Oakwood on a high-speed chase. They ended up finding me hiding in a dryer.
What?
Yes, girl. And
I didn't know you were tiny enough to hide in the dryer.
Yeah, I was in the dryer. So I ended up going to jail. I was in Dawsonville for almost a year, or it was about 7 months, and I was pregnant the entire time. And because Dawsonville was at the time a very racist place, and I talked like a black girl and I act like a black girl, and I was pregnant with a black baby, they ended up putting me in a room by myself because they feared for my life. So I ended up being in a room by myself for months. And I was reading my Bible while I was in there. But I didn't understand none of that, girl. Like,
Sure.
I didn't have the Holy Spirit. I hadn't really given my life to Christ. I didn't know. It was just words on a page,
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up getting out, try to get fast forward a little bit, and I went back with the guy, but then we got busted again selling drugs. Now, the busman ran on us. My second daughter was like 3 months old, and they took him to prison this time. They took him for good.
He was done.
And I felt like this is my escape because he was so abusive to me, and he cheated on me.
Mm-hmm.
He would bring other women into my home, and there was nothing I could do. I had nowhere to go.
There was no boundaries.
Yes. Whatever he wanted me to do, I would do it, and I'll just say that. It didn't matter if it was in the bedroom. It didn't matter if it was with other women. Whatever I could do to please him, I would do.
You didn't know your worth.
That's right.
You had not experienced God's love.
That's right.
You had just been told your whole life, worthless.
Yes.
You did not know your worth.
So I ended up getting another place, and it wasn't very long I had met my husband today. My second daughter was a year old, or almost not even a year old. She was about 3 months old. It was October 2001. I knew my husband. I knew him as a friend, but I didn't know that we would be on the journey. So year after year, we had kids. I had one that was 3 months old. The very next year, I had another one. The very next year, I had another one. And it was me and him. It was me and him raising this little family. My oldest daughter, was still with my mom because I just thought I couldn't get her back. Like, they had me so scared that I just couldn't go get her back, that I'd have to go to court and do all these things. And even though I wasn't running from the police anymore, like, I was starting to get on the straight and narrow path.
You have the mindset, though, of the system doesn't help people.
Right.
They hurt people.
Right.
Because no one in the system, not the school system, not the juvenile detention center system, the court system, no one
really has
helped you. The system has done nothing but hurt you.
Well, we began having kids, and like I said, it was just me and him. He was from Arkansas. I was from here, so we just did the best we could. He worked 2 jobs, but through all of this, we still would drink and party and smoke, but we were together. Mm-hmm. We did everything we
found
could.
A person.
I found a person. Well, we had been together probably about 9 years. We had, at this point, 4 kids together. 4 or 5. Yes, we had 4 kids together. No, 3 kids together. I had 2 from before, and then I had these 3 with him. And
I remember you bringing your little brood of children to church.
Yes. Well, we were living in Lula, and my son was going to the preschool up there, and that's when I saw Rusty. And that's when I started coming to church.
I taught at the preschool.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we were there. I started coming to church. Fast forward now, I won't say that the life in those span of years where we were having kids was easy. Like, I wasn't involved with my family at all. It was just me, my husband, and us raising these kids. Yeah. And, we went through things. We broke up at times. We got back together. I mean, it was any normal young mom and dad trying to raise 20 kids, and do
you were in survival mode.
Yes, that's what we were in.
Mode.
So I started coming to church at Lula, and I had given my life to Jesus, right? And this is, I think, one of the more important things that I want people to hear is I had given my life to Jesus, but I had by no means knew what it meant to live a Christian lifestyle, right? And you see all of these people doing all of these things, and your mindset is, I'll never be what they are.
You gotta be careful saying that.
I'll never be what they are. I'll never amount to who they are. I always felt as if everybody was looking, not everybody, but lots of people were just looking at all my filth, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so you find yourself like on fire. You just gave your life to the Lord, but then you got to do this walk now. And you're coming back to church and you're trying to find your purpose. But I'll say Pastor Scotty and Miss Radina and Keith Fagan and Lisa Fagan and many others in the church would usher me. They would pour into me. I started doing a Sunday school class. Pastor Scotty let me sing in the choir. He knew that I wasn't perfect by no means, but he wanted to give me a purpose, you know? And so I began to do that. And girl, I was on fire. I was learning, but my husband didn't come to church with me, right? And so I was taking all these kids on my own. I was doing this for 2 years, I believe it was. And then the Lord began to speak to me, and I remember Miss Eva Miller. I love her to death.
Her. Shout out to Eva.
Shout out to Eva Miller. She would say to me, 1 Corinthians, idolaters and adulterers will not enter the kingdom of heaven. Oh, and she would just pour this into me, and she meant it in love, but the way she said it just like went through my veins.
Scared me.
The
cut going in, the cut coming out.
And so I got to thinking, I'm an adulterer because I'm living with my kid's daddy, and we're not married. And the Lord began to deal with me in that. And the Lord told me he wanted me to move out. And long story short, I did. And I thought, how am I going to do this? You know, like I'm asking God, are you sure this is what you want? And he's telling me, yes, this is what I want. This is what I want. And so I began to seek how I would move out, and I did. It was hard. I'd been with my husband for 10 years. Not my husband at the time, but I'd been with him for 10 years. My kid's dad for 10 years. And I remember Pastor Keith telling me, Jessica, I want you to seek the Lord, because I know that the Lord doesn't want to see them kids away from their daddy, but I want you to see what the Lord tells you to do. So when the Lord told me to pack my stuff and move out, take my kids and move out, I did. Mm-hmm. One of the hardest things I've ever done in my life.
I just want to say that's a level of trust that is not easily attained.
Yes.
Look, when God is telling you to do something that's going to disrupt your entire world.
Yes.
You better know it's from God, for one.
And that's what I kept asking myself, like, are you sure this is what you want me to do? Like, this is scary. But I remember having Lula Assembly and Praise behind me. You know, like, I remember Pastor Scotty having a conversation with me, saying, we can't teach you the right things to do and not have your back when you choose to do it, you know?
Yeah.
And so I did. I moved out. I got my own little house. And I don't know how I made it. It was only by the grace of God. But every bill was paid. Everything that I needed was taken care of. I might get a gift card in the mail from AT&T to pay my power bill.
Amen.
But everything that I needed was taken care of. And it didn't take my husband but about 2 months. And he was ready to get married.
He was ready.
Yes. So we ended up getting married.
Praise the Lord.
And God moved in a mighty way. And I remember Pastor Keith and my brother Rusty. I wanted Rusty to do it, but Rusty wasn't ordained yet. Mm-hmm. So Pastor Keith and Rusty ended up marrying me. Yes, they ended up marrying me. And we moved back in together, and things were great. You know, I began to get my GED. I won the Eagle Award for Habersham County of the Adult Learning Center.
Awesome.
I started going to college. I mean, everything was going so good. I was doing so well in college. I was raising these babies. I was going to church. And then my stepdad passed away. Mm. Yeah. And when I tell y'all that the enemy, this is how the enemy will not stop coming after you. And see, I had never fixed the things that I'd been through. I kind of just had covered them up with smoking because I was still smoking. I would cover them up with alcohol. I would cover them up, and then I started going to church, and I had quit smoking and doing all that. And the Lord began to mend me. Right, I'd given my life to Christ. I was on fire.
You're on a healing journey.
Yes, I'm on my healing journey, and the enemy knew that. I tell you, and my stepdad passed away. And even though all the things I had been through with my stepdad, he had raised my daughter, and he tried to make right in my daughter what he had messed up in with me.
Because he was no longer that alcoholic.
That's
anymore.
right. And see, I think that's what people don't understand. It's not that person that's doing all that evil stuff. It's the enemy using that person. Yes. So once that spirit of alcoholism was gone, he was a different person. I had forgiven him over and over. I remember him going into the hospital one time when they had took his leg, and he asked everybody to leave out. And he said, "Jessica, I just need to know that you'll forgive me for the things that I did." And I told him, if we don't forgive people, then we don't get forgiveness, And I had told him, "Daddy, I already forgave you a long time ago." Because in order for me to heal, I have to forgive. Because if we don't forgive, Sam, there's a bitterness and a hatred and that just eats us alive, right?
Yes.
So when he
forgiveness is, and also I want to touch this. Forgiveness is not for that person.
It is for you.
It is for you.
Yes.
Receive it. That is a gift from God.
Yes.
Just like prayer and praying over people, intercessor prayer, whatever. Forgiveness is a gift.
Yes.
It is a gift.
It is a gift. Well, I had forgiven him. We were all the family was together because, see, my husband was black, and for years I dealt with a lot of racism and a lot of prejudice,
Sure.
Like people looking down on me because I had a black husband. I was ruined, like things people would say were just ungodly, really,
Yeah.
But my daddy had walked me, when me and my husband got married, my daddy walked me down the aisle. A month later, or 2 months later, he lost his leg. A few months later, his kidney shut down. A year later, not even a year later, he was gone.
Yeah.
And when he was gone, I did not know how to deal with that pain. Because it was such a double-edged thing. I had wished him dead so many times, and I had tried to kill him myself, you know what I'm saying? And I thought that God had finally answered my prayer. And the enemy began to get into my brain, and he began to tear me down.
Guilt.
He began to use everything against me. He began to use my shame, my guilt. He began to use my not being worthy against me. Everything that I had been building on my healing journey, he began to tear down. And I remember not being able to sleep and just I was watching my mama suffer. I was watching my little brother suffer. And the enemy was telling me, this is all your fault. This is all your fault.
You were just receiving all of that.
And I was just believing everything that he said. And so I was going to college and I was working full time and I was so exhausted. I remember one night being at I worked at the Waffle House.
Mm-hmm. I remember that.
Mm-hmm. And I remember a girlfriend of mine working there with me. And I knew that she did meth.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that, and I knew it had never been something, I had tried it a couple of times. Had never been something I really did.
Advice for you at that point.
No, it was just, we were at a party and we tried something, you know. And so I walked up to her and I was like, I'll give you some weed, because I was smoking weed. I had went back to smoking weed, if you'll give me something to keep me awake. And she knew exactly what I meant. She was like, you don't do that. I was like, but I really need it tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it started.
That was the seed.
That was the seed. I took it that night. Within 2 months, I was taking it every night. And the more and more of the drugs I took, the more and more the enemy made me feel this small.
Mm-hmm.
Before I knew it, me and my husband had separated. I was living in a shed behind the neighbor's house just so I could see my kids get on and off the school bus.
Yeah.
He was begging me. I would roll up pieces of paper and use it to do my drugs, to snort my drugs. And I would go into the car, like wherever I was at, and get ready to roll the piece of paper up. And I would see that he had unrolled it and wrote on it, "My husband, now, you are better than this."